Okay. Okay. I was about to say I can't see you. It didn't necessarily lower right, so I
Uh,
didn't think you were there. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna get started. I'm gonna start at the top and then go down. Chris G, what up, my brother?
What's going on?
Hey, hey. So, Chris, very simple question. Do you know yourself?
Not 100%. I'll be honest.
Okay. So you feel like you know yourself, but you still have some work to do.
Really.
Perfect. Chris, can you name one bias that you know that you have that you are either working on or had to actually address?
Um, I would say, I would say in certain situations, probably certain levels of misogyny that I'm not like socially aware of sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, that's one that kicks kicks all of our butts sometimes. So I get that one. Perfect, perfect. All right, hold tight for me one moment, Chris. Paul, how are you?
Pretty good, brother.
Good, good, good. Paul, do you know yourself?
Well, I like a quote that I heard one time, or a statement that sometimes uh, we know less than what we think.
Okay, okay. That is actually a wise statement. All right, cool. Paul, question for you.
Yes, sir.
What are some social norms or roles that you have adhered to that you feel like you need to either break or you had to break yourself of?
Um, Social norms.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I guess was trying to be impressive. Uh, Trying to be like the neighbors.
You're trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yes, sir.
Ooh.
The older I got, the more I got away from that.
Mm. Yeah, I think there is definitely some societal pressures to one, uh project certain things, right? And then also two, to compare yourself to other people. And so that's definitely a thing. It's definitely a
It's hard
thing.
to get away from too, man, but
It
it's doable.
is.
I'm a living witness. It's doable though.
It is. It is. All right, give me one second here, Paul. Chris. Chris, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good, good. Chris, do you know yourself?
I would say no, but I am a work in progress.
Okay, listen, that is the most important thing that we're willing to actually understand that and work towards those things. That's important. Chris, breaking all chains, right? If I say that I want you to break your chains, what does that mean to you?
I would say that that means for me being able to prove the the people who doubted me wrong, and
Mm,
I always have the Mamba mentality mindset, and so just being able to prove people wrong is for me that's what breaking chains looks like.
okay, okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, perfect, perfect. And last but not least, Hawk. Hawk, how are you?
I'm good.
Hawk, do you know yourself?
I'm pretty self-aware, but I look at that self-awareness the same way I look at education. It's a lifelong endeavor.
Mm, that's what I'm talking about. Hawk, listen, I am glad that you're here, and I'm actually ecstatic that you're the person that gets to answer this question because I'm gonna actually have you do some heavy lifting for me, Hawk. Hawk, what's the difference between accountability and cancellation?
Accountability is where you look at a situation and determine from the outcome of that situation whether or not you had anything to do with it, and if you did, how much you had to do with it.
Hmm.
Or as you put cancellation, I'm assuming just saying I ain't had nothing to do with it and canceling the other person out because you
Mm,
blame it all on them.
mm, yeah, yeah. Okay, Okay. All right. All right. Perfect. Perfect. All right, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get started. We're gonna dig a little bit deeper into all of these things because, again, the basis of the conversation for this week is not just know thyself, right? But I think there is a massive need to build a foundation if we're gonna have any type of societal change, and I think there's a massive need for societal change because, and Papa, I'm gonna mute you for a minute, okay? Just mute you there. I think there's a massive need for societal change because I spend time on and off the internet and I see a lack of understanding in a lot of different things. There's a lot of people that don't necessarily understand biases. They think that if you say that they have biases, then they automatically think that you're calling them a racist or you're calling them misogynistic, sexist, classist. They automatically go to those things and it becomes a defensive thing, and people don't really dig deep into understanding what those things are. And then when you talk about the societal roles or norms, it's upholding the patriarch. I'll just give it to you. It's really dealing with the patriarch and how we tend to put a certain level of emphasis on the people that sit at the top of the patriarch while really downplaying the contribution of the people that are towards the bottom of the patriarch. And we have to fix that. And then we talk about breaking all chains. Breaking all chains speaks to the actual generational curse. I know a lot of black people are watching this, and a lot of black people have heard the term generational curse. And that's something that understanding not only how do you break that, but what does that look like for individuals, right? Because a generational curse could be as simple as, well, my dad drunk a lot, his dad drunk a lot, my great grandpa drunk a lot, so I'm gonna drink a lot. And we got to talk about it. And last but not least, accountability versus cancellation. Hawk was spot on with the first part, but the second part, I kind of want to refine that. Cancellation. There's a lot of people that believe that when someone tries to hold you accountable, that means that they want to cancel you. And canceling someone means that you want them gone and you never want to interact with them again. And hell, let's be honest, there are certain people that deserve to be canceled. But accountability is saying that you want this person to be better. You want them to actually work on themselves. And hopefully in the future, you want an opportunity to share space, community, whatever with them again. So understanding the difference between the two is all a massive part of knowing thyself. That being said, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Hawk, coming back to you. Hawk, I want to talk about biases first. Why is it that certain people have such a hard time understanding that they have biases versus feeling like they're being labeled?
Because they don't understand our societal structure and that they've been conditioned to see things and think of things in a certain way. They think that it is what it is instead of they were conditioned to believe that that's what it is, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How can you give me an example of a bias, a bias that would be prevalent in women, but not necessarily in men?
A bias that would be prevalent in women and not necessarily in men?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question.
I know. think about it for a second, because I was going to go to inverse. Now, let's flip it on its head. Give me a bias that's prevalent in men, but not in women.
Okay, that's a lot easier.
Exactly, right? That's the whole point, Hawk.
Exactly.
That's the whole point. I think that the reason why it's a lot easier to actually answer the question the other way around is because I feel like, honestly, men have a lot more unpacking to do than women.
Oh, 100%. But also, you got to understand that part of the conditioning that I was talking about is from the patriarchy, right?
Mhm.
So men are the ones deciding these things or whatever. So, for instance, right, we'll use a typical one or whatever, the mindset that the woman's place is in the home,
Mhm.
right? Men are going to believe that because they've been conditioned to believe that she's going to be the mother of my kids. She needs to stay at home and take care of the kids. That's her role. That's her job or whatever. Women don't necessarily look at roles like that. That they want to be able to go out and do the same types of things that anybody else does. But men believe that their role is to stay at home and take care of the house and take care of the kids. But that's a bias that men have because of the social conditioning that we have that tells us that through patriarchy.
Yeah. You know what? Let's keep that rolling. Give me a second here, Hawk. Chris G. Chris G. So Hawk brought up the word patriarchy, right? And you started off by saying you have a little bit of internalized misogyny that's a bias that you've had to overcome and really get through that. How does the patriarch play a role in your bias, see, and how did you identify it to start working on it?
I mean, I would say like years in the finance industry, right? Like when you're kind of like baked into like systems like that, you know, it's kind of like ingrained and exercised, and um, it might not, you know, it kind of hits you subconsciously. You know, it kind of hits you subconsciously.
What was your aha moment?
I would say in the industry that I'm in, I learned one day that only 2% of women like founders get like, you know, their startup ideas funded, even though they have amazing ideas and things like that. I was just like coming to the realization like women do a lot of great things for society, so like they should be equally represented, not just in finance but in the military and regular life and things like that. So
Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I agree. I think that there's a lot of times that the patriarch rears its ugly head, and you can see that in a lot of different industries. I definitely agree that your industry specifically is one that is male dominated, and it's one of those things that I feel like it's like an out of sight, out of mind situation, right? Where you don't necessarily think about it because you don't see it. But then once you see it, you can never unsee it. Am I wrong? Hmm. All right. All right. Good stuff. I want to come back to Chris now. Chris. So Chris G just spoke on the actual the way that women are underrepresented in certain roles, right? In certain industries. Chris, can you name a social norm or a societal role that when you think of this position, this job, the first thing you think is woman?
Like a particular industry or like
Industry,
profession?
job, role, whatever. What's the if we say this is something that a woman does, what's the first thing you think?
I think of the healthcare and the social work professions
Mm. Why do you think that,
because I
Andrea?
think that women, um, which I think that they are treasures and we should love them as such. I think that because of their inherent ability to be nurturing and caring, that
Mm.
those are the um, industries that are at the forefront because you do need a certain level of compassion to be in those industries.
Yeah, I agree with that. But Chris, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do, does holding that societal norm or that viewpoint, does that put unrealistic expectation on women? Meaning, is it the fact that we expect women to be nurturers? We expect women to be compassionate, affectionate, to have the emotional intelligence that they then have to fall into that old trope of being strong, right? Where they have to take care of not only the house, the kids, themselves. And does that actual thought process of, well, women are nurturers and they're naturally the ones to take care of things. I mean, does that set them up where they have to deal with more than men?
I think so because, like you said before, it does create a unrealistic expectation where it's like they're expected to be the best of the best, if that makes sense. But at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, we're all human, and we oftentimes have to have those realistic expectations. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. I think there's a lot to be said about that because the one thing that I know for a fact is that women they outpace and outclass men in a lot of different ways, and I'm just going to be honest about that because I know for a fact that the mental toughness that I've seen the women in my life exhibit is more than I could ever accomplish in a lot of different situations. Chris, I'll tell you a story. Um, I can have a cold, like just a little cold, and I will be out for like 48, 72 hours, like not doing anything. My wife, on the other hand, can have a migraine for days. She could, be sick. She could have the flu or whatever the case may be, and she never misses a beat. But I think that's also because of the pressure that she has to continue to perform the certain things that she does. And I think there's a huge difference when it comes to men and women in that type of situation.
Yeah, and I agree with you because I grew up with a mom and two older sisters, so they taught me the majority of the things that I know, and the way that I think is because of how I grew up around them. Like
Mm,
I won't say that my dad was necessarily not around, but he worked a lot, and so
mm-hmm.
a lot of the things that I saw as a child and their strength is the reason why I think the way that I do.
Yeah. Chris, you couldn't have teed me up any better. Paul, can you hear me?
Yeah, I had you put me on mute.
Okay. Paul, listen, Chris spoke to like growing up, right? And he spoke to how his dad worked a lot. And we know for a fact that for a long time, Paul, you're older man and you know how years of there being a sense that, well, the men are the breadwinner and the women have to be at home and they have to be the homebodies. They have to be the ones that actually take care of the kids and clean and cook and all this other stuff. Um, but Paul,
That
it's
was false.
2025, all right?
Say it again.
It's 2025. We have
Yes.
women out making their own money, women that are CEOs, women who are perfectly fine with saying, you know what, kids aren't for me. I
Okay.
want to focus on myself, my life, my career, bettering different things in different situations. But Paul, there's a lot of men who are still out here who struggle with women and the fact that they are working to break their chains in these societal roles. Paul, how how do you or how did you or have you broke your mindset of women should be in this position and men should be in this position?
All right, we got clear evidence, just like you said, in 2025, that them old social constructs, them indoctrinations, them uh, uh, them tribal beliefs and things were all false stuff that shouldn't have shouldn't have been actually manifested in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
in my belief. It never should have manifested because man and a woman is equal.
Mm.
And I'll tell you something. What I witnessed in the old neighborhood I used to live in,
Mm-hmm.
there was a I gotta say it right for TikTok friend, LGBT couple, right?
Mm-hmm.
I They adopted a baby. I'm
Mm.
talking about what do you call it? A newborn.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched them raise that baby.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I don't like when we distinguish, who's superior in one thing and who ain't. Because
Mm-hmm.
not even in weightlifting, you can watch women's weightlifting. There's
Yeah.
some women that'll punch 450 like like it ain't nothing.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think there's no difference between. I don't think there's no difference between a man and a woman in any kind of way.
Well,
And,
Papa,
I
so
mean,
let me
any kind of way.
okay, so let me say this. So, Papa, there are Papa, do you know what red pill is? Like when they talk about the
Yes, sir.
red pill men.
Yes,
So,
sir.
Papa, red pill men are like really prevalent now. On everyone wants to be fresh and fit. Everyone, for some reason, is listening to Andrew Tate. Everyone, for some reason, feels like you have to be a masculine alpha male. All of this other stuff. Papa, what advice would you give to the young men listening that feel like that they need to be the one to actually always stand up and say, "I'm the man. I'm in charge. I run this."
That persona is not needed.
Why so?
It's not needed. All you have to do is be yourself. Okay. Okay. For every man, there's a woman. You know what I mean? And for every
Or a
woman, there's a
man,
man.
or you know, it's it's
And
it's someone for everyone, Papa.
huh?
It's someone for everyone, Paul. Happy
That's
Pride
right.
Month, people.
Right. So what the problem is, and it's being proven now in 2025. Uh, uh, Women have shown us, you know what I mean. They had to do it the hard way because men couldn't, couldn't grasp it. They showed us that
Mm-hmm.
they are equal.
Mm-hmm.
Women are equal to men. Okay, and like I said, in every way, I done seen women out out bench. I go to a gym. I see women out there over there out benching, picking up more weights than the men.
Yeah.
I told you, I seen a gay couple raise the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, so it ain't that. Uh, uh, it's just that it's the belief. It's the belief in the old. Like the old the construct that well the only one can nurture a baby is a woman, but that's not true.
Yeah.
A man can nurture. I was in the mall this week, and there was a man selling women's perfume. I
Mm-hmm.
mean that's just the way it goes. I mean it goes to me between a man and a woman is like Barry White said, it's 50-50. We the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we,
I
we the same.
completely agree, Papa. I think there's a lot of people that have a misconception as far as like who a lot of people have the conversation around like who's supposed to be the leader, right? And in my opinion, good leadership is having balance, right? And I say this all the time because the question has been asked to me multiple times, like, "Hey, are you the leader?" And I say, "Well, it depends on the situation," and I truly mean that. There's certain situations where I'm the leader, and there's
I,
certain situations where my wife
I,
is the leader because we understand what we do best, right? We understand that one, we're a team, and two, that there are certain times where she will perform at a higher level than me, and I'll perform at a higher level than her. Not many times, but certain times.
So
And
that
having that balance is important.
proves that there is no one leader in a household.
Mhm.
There is no one leader. That's that's a terrible belief that a house has one leader. A house, no house should have one leader. Okay, it's a co-op. It's a joint thing. Okay, no house in the world, in this country, should say, uh, distinguish. Oh, this house here, a man. I don't even like when a woman says my man is the leader of the house, and I don't like when a woman say my husband is. When a man say my wife is the leader of the house, that is so backwards thinking.
Mm.
That stuff is antiquated nowadays.
Okay, hold on 1 second for me, Paul, because this is what I want to do. I would love to get a woman up here to join this conversation. I would love to get a woman up here to join this conversation. So if you are a woman that is or femme presenting, right? If that's that's who you are, a femme presenting or a woman, if you want to join this conversation, get in the box because I have a question for you specifically. I want to, I want to let them up, but no, none of them have requested up yet. So yeah, that's why I promise you, I didn't mean to stack the whole panel with men. It's just these are the ones that
I will defend y'all. Come on up.
Andrew, you're fine. I promise you, this is a safe space, Andrew. Our community is different here. No one's gonna yell at you. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, all right. Hold on. All right. So we're gonna bring you in and
Fine, but only because you're the first person to say my name right.
yeah, exactly. And which I'm horrible with names.
Don't tell anyone. It's funny.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, I'm gonna drop you down, okay? Chris. My super mod, Chris.
Okay.
All right. And you can come back up. I just want to get one other woman in here, okay? All right, thank you. Guys, keep tapping the screen. Let's go ahead and get the likes moving. Let's get the likes up to 75,000 likes. Let's get the shares up. Let's do all the wonderful things. So I saw Kimberly first. So let's bring Kimberly in. Let's bring Kimberly in.
We got 250 years of life experience down bottom.
Whoa. Sounds like somebody is dealing with some biases that he needs to unpack. All right, guys, keep tapping the screen. Let's do all the wonderful things. Let's go ahead and get the likes up to 50,000 likes. Let's get the shares up. We only got 32 shares. Let's get the shares up to 100 shares. Also, only share like once or twice. Don't spam share. Also, we still have $240 left in our nightly donation goal. So Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all the pay links are in the link tree in the bio. Santana Speaks 24, best way to support the live. Everything is accepted. Anything's appreciated. Andrea, I'm going to start with you. So I had a question earlier for Hawk, and he couldn't necessarily answer it. And now I've spent some time thinking about it, and I think that I have one. But I'm going to leave it up to you. Can you name one bias that is more prevalent in women than men?
A bias that's more prevalent in women.
Yep.
Oh, I'm really bad at pulling these off the top of my head. Give me an example of one that men have, and I could probably match it.
Machismo, right? Feeling like they have to be a tough guy, or thinking that they have to,
like soft girl summer or whatever,
Yeah.
I'd say that. That's probably a good one.
Okay. All right. And real quick, Kimberly, would you like to answer the question as well?
Yeah, I think that sometimes women can be more critical of other women.
Sure.
Why can't women be for that? Listen, there's a joke on Family Guy.
That pits out
I think sometimes women, this is just kind of my experience. I'm 50, in my 50s. And so in my experience, I think that sometimes women can be more critical of the other woman than of the man.
Yeah.
Especially when they make excuses for the man.
Kimberly, I've seen that so much. It's always the one area that I've seen that like really insanely is like work, right? I've always enjoyed working for a woman boss. But it always seems like the woman boss that I have never gets along with any of my peers that's women. It's the weirdest dynamic, and I've never understood it.
I did
I
a whole
agree.
video on that once.
Say it again, Andrew.
I did a whole video on that once.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. I'll dox the boss in the chat. No, I'm just kidding. But I had like one of my jobs that I had, one of my first jobs, our head boss, like leader of the department, was a woman, and she was like besties with the CEO, who was a man, and she would like suck up to him and hang out with him all the time. But she was just like backhandedly, like we were all chill, right? We loved her, but anytime he would enter the room, she would just start like, you know, kind of like sucking up to him and then being like, kind of like putting us down in front of him. And it was very obvious and weird.
Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic, but I think I saw someone in the chat say it, and I think it definitely lends itself to the patriarch, right? And also internalized misogyny, right? I mean,
Right.
like it's for some reason. The one thing that I was thinking, and Andrea, Kimberly, you two tell me if you think that I'm off basis, and this is just one. Yes, I'm gonna throw out a stereotype. Don't cancel me for throwing out the stereotype, whatever. The one that I always think of, and I always find it super, super interesting, is that it seems like in a lot of situations, women are less confident in themselves than men. And I say that in the sense of women can be absolutely beautiful, perfect, like amazing in every single way. And they say, oh, my hair is a little bit off. I look this way, or I look that way, or, you know, I feel like I put on, 3 pounds and I'm just way too fat, or what. And they say all this about themselves. But then you see a man, he's bald with patches of hair on the side. He's, 50 pounds overweight. He hadn't took a shower, and he walked past the mirror and like, I look good.
Well, yeah, you can easily tie that back to like, being raised under the patriarchy again, right? It teaches men that they're like so great and leaders and tough. And then women are just like hypercritical. And you could even like stereotype it back to like, trophy wife scenario, right? Women are valued based on their looks and their appearances and how they present. But men, it's like, are you strong? Are you this and that? So like men are really out here tough, whatever. And then women are out here like, oh, am I pretty enough?
Okay.
I think
Hypercritical, yeah.
honestly, I kind of think it depends on the man that you have too. Now, if you have a man that continually will say, "Hey, baby, you look great," or just out of the blue, just all those innuendoous compliments, or just the single little touch when he walks by you, it makes a woman feel good inside to know that her man thinks no matter how she looks, she could have curlers in her hair and whatever, that you're still that woman.
Yeah.
And that I think that's really, it makes a woman feel more empowered to know that. So then that radiates off to her ability to feel confident within herself, and that she can do anything.
Okay.
Because honestly, Santana, like your wife, if she came to you and said, I think I want to go back to school and I want to blah, 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 and you're thinking maybe you don't want to exactly agree with it, but you want to be supportive, right? Like you want to tell her like, okay, do what's going to make you happy. This is going to make you feel good. I think that's what women need more, because I think that throughout the years, we've been told so much that, we can't do this, we can't do that. We're limited on what we can and cannot do. When we have our husbands or whoever's with us to tell us, like, hey, you can, and you can achieve all the goals you want.
Right. Yeah, I think that I think that that's something that that's something that's super prevalent, and I completely agree with you. And the interesting kind of inverse to all of this to me is kind of like, and maybe you know, I'm just gonna say it. I think my wife is perfect, right? I genuinely mean that, and I know she like is, oh, you're just saying, like, no. Like, I think that my wife is perfect in so many different ways, and like I think that there's so many, like, there's nothing that she could come to me and say, I want to do this or I want to do that, or you know, whatever, that I'm like, oh, you can't do this, or there's any type of hesitation. And even like, it's funny, and I'm about to embarrass her for a half second. She can wake up in the morning, have a little bit of drool running down her mouth, got maybe like some eye boogers or something, and I'm just like, golly, she's the most beautiful woman on earth. But like, it's that perception that I have of her, and I try to make sure that I always give her that feedback. And I hope that it's something that she can take. And I know she doesn't necessarily deal with certain things as far as like confidence and all this other stuff, but I think that is important. But
That, I'm
go
sorry,
ahead, Hawk.
that last word you used, I have a question I'd like to ask.
Sure.
And I'm not completely disagreeing with what was said, but why can't women have that confidence that Kimberly was describing without the
Exactly.
confirmation of a man?
Hawk, I think it just stems from just so many I mean,
Societal. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it
and I
just
get that, and the reason I
and that's
ask
something
is,
that's very hard to break,
yeah, well, to me
like in
that's
your
one of
mind,
those, but to me that's one of those intersectional things, right?
right?
Because once upon a time in this country, in the Black community, we were less than, right? And we had to always prove ourselves to the man or whatever, or we were going to be less than or whatever. Why couldn't I just be a man like that guy was a man just because I am? Why did I need his approval?
That's a good point.
Right. And it's the same thing with women. Now, don't get me wrong. It doesn't hurt for your partner on either side, right, to constantly reinforce their love for their partners or whatever. But as an individual, you should know and have that confidence in yourself as an individual without needing confirmation from anybody else.
I mean, yeah, everyone should. But
Yes.
just because something should be the way that it should be doesn't mean it is.
Well, and that
Which
goes back to the beginning of the conversation, which was this social conditioning that we've all been through that makes us think this way.
well, and that's exactly where I was going, because that perfect segue. That's exactly where I was going. Hey, Andrew, how do we break the chains of these generational curses? Specifically, let's stick with women, right? How do we get to the point where we understand that women, that there is a bit of reassurance that's needed, or you know, I guess for a lack of better words, praise or whatever the thing may be from men? How do we get to the point where we break that need or that necessity and get to the point where women are more reliant on themselves in that sense, and they don't need that validation?
Well, that's $1 million question, isn't it? If I
It
had
is.
to answer that, then the whole world would be made of cotton candy, wouldn't it? I mean, yeah, it's really a tough question. I mean, there's a lot of different arguments about it. One that I think of a lot is that argument about, like, you know, feminism in the workplace, you know, that adheres to capitalism, that goes down all those rabbit holes of different arguments. But I think back to that a lot, especially in the way that like women compete and are like pitted against each other in the patriarchy. Because like, yeah, even in that office environment, women were still like competing all the time, because it still felt like, well, there is actually only so much room for women at the top still. It felt like everyone was like dragging each other down. So you could say more space there, but then there's that argument of like, well, is it worth fighting the system, or do we throw the whole thing away and start from scratch? Yeah.
Hold on. This is what we're going to do, because now I'm about to make it even tougher. Kimberly, since Andrea said it, and she said that it's the patriarch, and the patriarch is how we address the actual generational curses, and we break those chains. Kimberly, how do we dismantle the patriarch?
Oh, geez.
Throw them all away.
I think, honestly, I think women need to support each other more.
I agree.
We need to be behind each other more. You know, they say that, you know, you need to be, you know, behind your man. Well, that's good and all, you know, you should. But at the same time, if you see your friend down, pick her up.
Mm.
You know, ask her where she needs help. I think that sometimes women get so busy being a mom, you know, a mother, a wife, you know, doing their business at the business, that sometimes we forget about our friends that may need just a listening ear,
Mm.
and open up our doors more to other women that may just need to just to vent and to learn to keep it to ourselves,
Mm. Mm.
not to spread everybody's business, because sometimes women do that too,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And we need to learn to, because men are, I think, are a little bit better at that. Like if a dude goes to another dude and says, hey, you know, I got this going on, I think they have a tendency to keep their bros business to them, you know, to themselves. And women have a tendency to, I think, a little bit more, you know, oh, did you know so and so? And I think that we just need to be there for each other,
Yeah.
support each other.
I agree, and I think like I'm not gonna lie, like I think men just have a lack of overall comprehension in certain aspects. Like specifically, my wife will come to me and I'll tell her like a story about something that's going on, and then she'll start trying to get details out of me, and I'm like, I don't know. Well, what about this? What? But did you ask this question? No, I don't know.
That frustrates me so much.
Oh,
But
me
it's
too.
it's
Me
it's
too.
true. It's like I mean
Why don't you guys
I got the
ever
high level.
like? Are you guys not curious about things? Why do men never ask follow-up questions? Of
Right.
It pisses me off.
Chris, why do men not ask follow-up questions? Answer the question.
Follow up on that.
I mean, I think we have that innate, like, subconscious pressure. Like, okay, we need to have it figured out so we don't look like, you know, so we don't look weak, so we don't look like we don't know what we're talking about. And to be quite honest with you, that's why part of the reason why our life expectancies are so much lower compared to you guys, because we tend to
Not
use
worried
a lot.
about it.
We tend to use a lot of brawn instead of brain sometimes.
Also, you're saying that's a societal norm, the fact that men are expected to have it figured out and they don't necessarily run through those types of things.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, not using, like, you know, critical thinking skills, like asking the follow-up questions to avoid problems that could have been avoided without that supplemental information.
Okay. Paul.
But what I like to say that all these discrepancies, they are dissipating.
You think so?
2025, yeah, 2025 is showing. I see women really standing out. They are dissipating. Now,
But
let's go
Papa,
back.
hold on. I gotta push back on you because Papa, I feel like yes, and you know, this is not me pandering or anything, but like I feel like yes, women are getting better, but I feel like the young men are getting worse.
Okay, but hold on. That they were the original problem. If we take this back in time and take it from the nucleus, right? How all this derived is because man was selfish. Okay, man was selfish and has bullied his way all the way up.
Mm.
Okay, because I know good and well. I read an article in National Geographic back from cave man time. There were tribes of women that were the hunters.
Mm.
Okay, so what happened was somewhere along the line, men decided to be bullies. Men decided to be, you know, that's the best word to describe them. You know what I mean? To take superiority over women.
To try to
And
assert physical
okay, and so
dominance in
that
order
and
to
left
the might makes right type of deal.
yes, it left society with all these discrepancies that we are in conference right now about. You know,
Mm.
okay. So what happens is it's dissipating. If you don't, you can see it on social media. You can see it.
I don't agree with that one, Papa.
But
I'm telling
wait,
you.
wait. I see women, uh, ten, standing their ground. That you ain't no better than me.
Mhm.
I see them standing
But
their ground.
Papa, but think about it. Not just women. What about the men?
Okay, the men are going to have to rehabilitate because the women is gonna break. It's gonna um, uh, 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 be the ones dissipating these discrepancies. And guess what? By maybe not by choice, men will get it. But the sad
Papa,
part
have you heard the
is
term
time.
incel?
I have a thought actually that kind of aligns with his thinking.
Okay, go ahead and give me your thought, but then I want to also have Hawk answer the question as well.
But okay, so you're not wrong. Like the divide is getting further, right? Men are getting worse, to put it generically, and women are some of them are getting further left.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an interesting school of thought that like those two can't like coexist, right? Like dating pools are getting worse. Birthing rates are dropping. All this stuff is happening. There's gonna have to be a point at something in which something happens, something snaps, something changes. I almost do a little bit wonder if this is like part of the pendulum also swinging. Like if it's gonna go too far to the right here, right? Something's gonna snap and it'll go back because the pendulum historically does kind of swing, but there's got to be some sort of a boiling point that we're gonna reach here.
Yeah, I think
One
so.
can only hope or fear, depending.
I think so as well.
Andrea, do you kind of agree that women don't want chivalry to be completely out the door? Like, like I don't think
I don't know if anyone
we
is
still want to
arguing.
be treated like women.
Well,
That's
I don't know if
not.
I'd call it being treated like women or just like treated like you would treat your partner, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm not out here asking for men to like constantly be holding the door open for me and all. Like, I hold the door open for my dates sometimes when I go. It just depends on who gets to the door first. If you're carrying something, like I'm not out here like waiting for a man to hold the door open for me.
I'll tell you this: I get upset when my wife touches the door, and that's just the truth.
Yeah, that would piss
Like
me
I get upset. Like so I'll say it whatever when we're having a disagreement. And she knows that when we're having a disagreement and she knows that she'll shut her own door when she gets in the car. That's like her.
funny.
That's her get back.
That's her sign.
That's her get back.
I definitely like. Yeah, I don't even know if I would like chivalry or is it just like being a kind person, you know?
Right.
I don't. Yeah, like every once in a while, sure, it's a nice thing to do. I don't think anyone's fighting against that.
What I'm trying to say is I think that sometimes men get confused too because they don't know if a woman wants them to do that anymore or not. And then there's other women that get upset when it doesn't happen. And then there's other women that don't care. So when a man's going out on a date, in his mind, especially a young man, should I do that? Should I not do that? You know what I mean? Because of it, I think it just kind of slides both ways. And I could see kind of a man's perspective in that area, like how it might be confusing.
I gotta agree with that.
Okay, hold on. 1 second. Okay, Hawk, answer the original question first, and then go into because I already know where you're going with it, and I definitely want you to touch on that. But answer the original question first.
I don't even remember what the original question.
The original
was.
question is why is it that men don't actually dig for details in situations?
Oh, because they don't want to know.
You think so?
The less they know, the less you can hold against them.
Yeah, I think
that is actually pretty factual.
They don't want to be involved. They don't want to know anything if they can help it. But whatever little information they do glean, that's what they'll report to you or whatever. But they don't want to know the details because they don't want to get involved.
Yeah. Let me say this real quick because I meant to call this out earlier. I'm so sorry. W's in the chat for Grandmaster RNG over on Twitch who sent 100 bits. Thank you so much for that 100 bits. I'm so sorry I didn't see that earlier. And for other people that send this stuff, I see it. I'll read it out in just a minute. I don't want to break up the conversation. Okay, Hawk, tell them the other thing now.
So to the last thing that you guys were saying, and I have to get my mind together because as Chris G will tell y'all, I'm old, so it's hard to keep information in my brain. But to what Kimberly was saying, I think if like you're saying, you see this from the man's perspective, I would call that an excuse, right? Because one, if you're just as Andrea was saying, if you're just being a decent human being and just doing these things in general, it should be seen that way. If
Right.
you're in a new relationship with somebody or whatever, communication is key in every relationship. So when you first start dating, sit down and have that conversation. I'm an old-fashioned kind of guy. I like to do this, I like to do this, I like to do this. What do you prefer? Right? So then they'll know. And then he won't upset her if he does that and that's something that she don't like or whatever, because they have talked about it. So for a guy to just automatically claim that he's confused or get upset when he's challenged in doing or not doing any of these things, that's just an excuse for him not doing the work.
Mm.
That makes sense.
Santana, what I say is what I mean, what's the goal of the conversation? The goal of the conversation is that man is not superior than a woman, and a woman is not superior than a man. Would that be the goal of this conversation, right?
No,
Well, right?
no, it's not. It's
Okay.
not.
Well, then, well,
It's
I'm
you.
just
You
saying
know what's funny? I'll tell you in a minute. But that's not the goal. As a matter of fact, let me do this. Let me do a couple of quick house cleaning things, and then I would love to hear what everyone that's up on the panel think the goal is of this conversation. So let me read a couple of things off. Hold on, let me go here. Guys, W's in the chat for Angela. And Angela, we have to come back to this because I read this and I could not agree more. W's in the chat for Angela. Angela sent a $5 donation saying plus size women are told they are not enough daily. And that is like I mean, like there's so many levels to that, right?
I can originate that. I'm a plus size woman, so
Right.
I know.
But then not only are you a woman, but then you're plus size, and you're dealing with the societal quote unquote norms, the patriarch, and then it goes back to the whole thought process around like your looks being your value, and it's so much, it's so much. But W's in the chat for Angela for that $5 donation. W's in the chat for Hilda. Hilda sent a $5 donation saying, raised by a single mom, girls are stronger than sons. You're absolutely right about that. Thank you for that $5 donation. W's in the chat for Justin. Justin sent a $10 donation saying TikTok doesn't like the word. I'm not going to say the word then, Justin, but everyone needs to read Word SLUT, a feminist guide to taking back the English language. It shows how it's rooted in misogyny. We are, and how rooted in misogyny we are, and how to start to simply by the words we use. Absolutely. W's in the chat for Justin for that $10 donation. And last but not least, W's in the chat for Caleb over on YouTube. What up, YouTube? What up, Twitch? W's in the chat for Caleb, who sent a $1.99 YouTube super chat to say, hope everyone's having a great night. Thank you so much for that donation. Guys, we have only $220 left in our nightly donation goal. There's almost 400 of us hanging out here. 220 people send $1. We can knock it out. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all the pay links are in the link tree in the bio. Santana Speaks 24. Santana Speaks 24 is the best way to support the live. If you enjoyed the information, education, entertainment, please consider donating. Everything is accepted. Anything is appreciated. If you're over on YouTube and you would like to actually support, you can send a YouTube super chat and I will read that out. All right, so Hawk, I'm not going to have you answer the question because I know you know what it's about, so I'm not coming to you. Paul, tell me again what you think the point is for this actual live and having this discussion. What are we trying to get to?
Well, if I'm not pinpointing the point is, well, I know what could come out of it, where men can get a change of mind about thinking they're over women, and women the same as well. But I'm open to listen to what you're saying but it's probably going to benefit in a lot of ways. Okay.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I do think that's going to be a byproduct, and I'm really excited about the possibility because I definitely think there's a need for that as well. Andrea. Andrew, what's the point of this conversation?
Man, don't call on me. I did not have my hand raised. Like a worst teacher.
Yeah.
I don't know if I thought that there was like a main goal
There
here.
it is.
Over.
I'm
Okay.
sneaky.
I'm already
sneaky.
wrong. Yeah,
Well, say
my thought was just like, yeah, we're having conversations. Hopefully, yeah, like men take away something from this. Maybe women take away something from this, although all the questions have been more women's experience. So I don't know if so much so that. But I think there is a very large divide right now, and we have to start figuring out ways to gap that or fix it and start talking about these things.
Yeah, there is a large divide, and you're absolutely right. And I think this overall thing will go a long way towards fixing, and hopefully we can shift the thought processes that certain people have. A good answer, Kimberly. What do you think the main point is of this conversation?
I'm kind of taking away a little something that Hawk said. Like, I think it has to deal with communication, like how men and women communicate with each other, and asking those open-ended questions to be able to sit down and have conversation with one another, and to get to really know each other more than just, okay, this is how I do, this is how I do. I just automatically do this, you automatically do that, and one or the other could not be happy with what with one or the other's doing, and so it's just about communication.
Okay. Yeah, I think communication is very important, and I think there is a need to have communication. I'll tell you guys what it is. So originally came up with the thought process was multi-layered, and I don't want to get opportunity to say, hey, we can build on this, and we can say it's not just like this one thing, right? It's not just like this is just it. We can build on it, and we can like flesh it out over time. And so the point of the conversation for these topics that are on getting to know or know thyself is about self-awareness, right? The point of this conversation is self-awareness, and it leans into the multiple things that it takes to become self-aware, right? And you can talk about the need to understand what your unconscious biases are, the fact that you don't necessarily want to re-traumatize anyone that is trying to heal from any type of trauma. You can talk about the systematic racism, right, that is that exists within our country. You can talk about breaking the cycles that occur in the reliance of the patriarch, and then of course you can talk about the accountability that's needed in order to actually be able to deal with those factors, right? And all of those things lay the actual groundwork to one, understanding intersectionality, but two, making the changes that we actually need to make as a society so we can actually have real progression, because there's a lot of people locked into certain things and they don't know why. They don't know how to spot them. They don't know how to address them. They don't know how to deal with them. They don't know how to continue to do the work. And all of these things are really, really necessary if we're going to ever have any type of impactful change. Hawk, did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah. So it's a sneaky topic.
Okay, solution time now.
The solution. Okay, so Paul, how do we dismantle the patriarch?
All right.
Oh, he came ready too.
He said it with all the confidence in the world
I've
too.
been waiting for this one.
Go ahead,
All
Paul.
All right. Willing or having the willpower to drop all your biases, making effort to respect the man. That's a woman. Vice versa. A man giving up his machoism and and respecting a woman and not allow no one leader in a household. It's a 50-50 thing. That's simplistic. You know what I mean? Now, if they want to sit here and you know, keep broadening that out, but I'm old fashioned, simplistic. You know what I mean?
If I may.
Yeah,
A
go ahead,
man,
Hawk.
So I hear what he's saying, and from an individualistic standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
I get what he's saying. But the problem, Paw, that you're missing, I think, in your summation is the system still exists that make people think about things and believe things a certain way. So before we can get to the level that you're talking about, which is the goal, we have to dismantle the system so people can be more free thinking.
Yep.
And not just falling into what the system tells them to think.
Hawk, do you think a lot of this is kind of based on how we raise our children? Like, a lot of people still maybe have the mentality of like, if your son cries, don't cry,
Yep.
son.
Yep.
Boys don't cry.
Yep.
Toughen up.
That's
You
I
know,
hope
social
that's not
The
norm.
still
little girl
happening, but I know I
cries,
grew up
you
that
know,
way.
then that it's okay for her to cry and have all the feelings and talk about her feelings, but the boys have to keep their feelings in. And I think that's where we need to start maybe dismantling all this.
Well, and again, like I said, I hope that's not still happening, at least not widespread, but I absolutely grew up that way or was raised that way. Never bought
Right.
into it, by the way. But that's what I mean when I say breaking up the system, right? We have to destroy this social construct that we have that tells us that that's the reality when it's not.
Right.
Right. So if we get rid of the system that tells us that's how it's supposed to be, then we can just go with our own compassion and our own empathy in how we raise our children.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's do this. I'm gonna rotate just a couple of people out just because I know there's other people that are interested in getting up and joining the conversation. So Papa, I'm gonna drop you down. Thank you so much for coming up and hanging out with us.
Oh, thank you.
All right, thank you. And Kimberly, I'm gonna drop you down as well. Thank you so much for being up here and being amazing.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's get a few more people in because I know there's a couple of people that specifically have been waiting. So let's get a couple of people in and we'll do a couple of quick introductions and let's see here. Make sure I'm reading this right. Is it Newsome Joe?
You can just call me Joe.
Joe? Okay, perfect. Joe, how are you?
Good, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good. And let's go ahead and get this person in. And we have, is that Kathleen? Kathleen? I'm assuming we are in Kathleen's.
Don't bark.
Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and drop it down. I'm thinking
bark.
that was tapping error. that was a tapping error. And then we have on the panel the birthday boy, Omega. My brother, Omega, happy birthday. Are you still? Okay, I was wondering if you were still there.
No. I have a couple birthday shots, but I'm.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Let's get this thing moving along because I don't want to hold you up, and also I don't want to, I know how things get going when you get.
Yeah.
Hey, Omega.
Yeah, what's up?
You know what we do here, right?
I know what we do here.
You know what we do. Joe, Andrea, Hawk, I need everyone off mute, please. I need everyone off mute. Here on late nights, when we have someone that has a birthday, we sing all off key, all unsuccinct. We sing happy birthday. So I need all of you to help me sing happy birthday to Omega. On the count of 3. You guys ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy Happy birthday, dear Omega. Happy birthday to you. All right.
Thank you.
Now that we've done that, we do the real thing. Hey, Alexa, play 50 Cent in the club.
Uh-oh.
That's what's up.
My favorite birthday song.
Go, 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 shorty. It's your birthday. It's your birthday. It's your
Hey.
birthday. And you know we don't give a. It's not your. Hey, Alexa, stop. Happy birthday, my brother. Guys, let's make sure that we're showing Omega some birthday love while he's up here on the panel. Let's go ahead and appreciate him, shower him with love and happiness and joy. Send him some gifts. Send him some gifts. Show him some love. Omega, I'm not going to hold you up for too long because I know, again, you already knee deep in a couple of shots, but I did want to get your perspective on a couple of quick things. Omega, can you tell me about any of your biases that you've had to either that you've identified or you've had to either address?
Biases. Oh, like, I mean, I'm gonna, because I've always held this close to my chest, but, like, because I mean, everybody sees me with my fiance, but a lot of people have don't understand that I'm a bi man. So, yeah, even though I'm with a woman, I'm bi, and like a lot of people, I've had to deal with that grappling, being a black man, growing up, you know, and like.
So dealing with the actual stigmatism of being, you know, like you have to be straight, you have to be with a woman, you can't embrace yourself for who you are.
Sorry, my bad. Yeah, but now, I've had to deal with that. I mean, like this is the first time like actually sent to a group of people. You know what I'm saying? But like, you know, having kids and all that kind of stuff, and you know, like being raised really religious, like you know, in the church, it's something you know that like I've you know grappled with for a long time, you know. So
yeah, you know what's interesting about that? I think there's a lot of stigmatisms around not only so that's a whole nother level when it comes to being black and then also being part of the queer community and having to deal with that because there's a you know stigmatism around that. And then there's also another aspect of it when you talk about religion, because we don't even have religion on the background, but religion has been a tool of oppression for a long time. And you mix all of those things together, and it is a cornucopia of like madness of, of just different ways that you have to uphold certain social norms, and you have to try to lean into certain biases.
I mean, like I've always been raised to think that a man walks and talks in a certain way, and I've had to unlearn all those social constructs that I've been built upon, and stuff. And actually, a lot of it fell away when my mom passed. You know, like I started rethinking my relationship with God and my relationship with you know my own manhood. You know, like. How I see myself and everything like that. Cause like, you know, when I walk, I mean, you know, like when I operate, a lot of people don't know. So, you know, it's like, um, I mean, it's one of those things that I just had to, come to understanding and forming with my own biases, you know, and then like with that comes like a hyper sense of being overly macho.
Yep.
Putting on, you know, like putting 20 on 10, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So like, recalibrate my idea of what social constructs and everything. But
Got it.
But yeah.
Got it. So Omega, then this is the last question I have for you then. Um, how how do you actually, not just you, right? Because you spoke to your experience as an individual, in which I appreciate you as an individual and also your individual experience. But how do we as a society break those chains of those social norms of that unacceptingness of people feeling that they have to be pressured to fit into a certain box? How do we address that as a larger group?
You talking about like the hierarchy or the patriarchy or anything like that?
Well, yeah, but also, I'm specifically speaking, like the social norms, right? The idea that, you know, a man has to be this, or a woman has to do this, or, you know, you have to be this way. How do you address those social norms? Because again, you said you were able to take a step back and address those things, you know, after your mother passed. But a lot of people, like, how can they deal with those types of things prior to, you know, a life-changing experience like that?
For quite honestly, like there's always somebody holding the key to the to your idea of what a social norm is. I
Hmm.
mean, whether you know it or not. Like, I mean, the problem with social power, even social power, is that it always leaves somebody at the bottom. I mean, like you know, like the hierarchy and patriarchy shouldn't exist, but I mean, it does. In the fact that many societies have formed a way of thinking, of people are thinking about it's you either have to have money, power, class, or status. I mean,
Hmm.
that kind of stuff uh, funnels down into all of our thinking, even though we don't even realize it. Like, I mean, so I mean, it's a hard system to break. It's a hard thing to break, man. I mean, I don't think anybody has the be all end all solution, but I do know this. To me, you can't replace one hierarchy or patriarchy
Patriarch.
with
Hmm.
another one,
Yep.
with another one, because you're just going to get the same end results. So,
Yep. Yep.
uh,
What up, Liv? Appreciate it. Hey, that's dope. That was dope. Yeah, no, listen, I think you're absolutely right. And I think there's a lot to be said about that, and the fact that I kind of I asked that question kind of tongue in cheek, understanding that it's such a complex question that that is not just like, oh, do the A, B, or C, but it's gonna, you know, take time, take intention, and it's gonna take a massive effort across the board. But I really I wanted to hear your thoughts on that, and I wanted to get you up here, one, so we could sing happy birthday, and two, just
oh,
to tell
thank
you how much I love you and appreciate you.
I love you too, brothers. I appreciate you, man. I mean,
All
and
right.
I think I might not even remember saying this tonight. But I appreciate for you giving me a space to actually tell my truth. I've never really told it to anybody. Like, you
Mm,
know, like
absolutely.
only small people group of people know. So I'm like, my fiance knows, and it's, you know, like, and she's cool with this. So I mean, like, and my kids know. So I mean,
Yeah, no,
you know.
listen, I say it all the time and I mean it when I say it. We are a safe and friendly community, and you know this. You've been a part of our community this entire time. So I'm just happy that you actually felt comfortable enough sharing that, and you know, it's all love here, and we're going to continue to take care of you because hashtag we all we got.
We all we got, bro.
Yeah. All right.
I'm about
Hey,
to
go
get
enjoy the
more
rest of your
shots.
birthday
So,
evening.
all right, man. I'm about to turn up. All right.
All
I'll see you
right.
later.
Have a good one. All right. Guys, Debbie's in the chat for Caleb. Caleb sent another $1.99 YouTube super chat and said astigmatism is an eye thing. Did I say astigmatism? I got astigmatism. Stigma, you know what I meant, Caleb. Don't do that. You know how I do. W's in the chat for Caleb for that $1.99 YouTube super chat. Guys, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all the pay links are in link tree in the bio. Santana Speaks 24, best way to support the live. We have $230 left in our, $220 left in our nightly donation goal. So if you enjoy the information, education, entertainment, and would like to support the live, best way to do so is through that donation, and we can take care of our nightly donation goal. With that being said, Joe, coming to you. Joe? Do you know yourself?
Yeah, I think well, I'm 40, so it took me all this time I think to start to get it.
Okay, okay.
I
Joe,
mean,
if you know yourself, tell me, what is a societal norm or role that you have adhered to that you had to say, I don't need to do that?
um I kind of want to go back to the earlier conversation like with men and women.
We'll get back
I
to it, but I need you to answer to open the question first, please.
yeah, so I mean for me it's a societal norm. I try not to adhere to any of them, but for me and my wife, right? We split the bills, right? We both
Mm-hmm.
work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I am, I am not afraid to bring her a meal.
Mm,
And let her sit down, put her feet up because she works too. Split the housework, do the chores, do the dishes. That they're not. There's no such thing as men and women's chores. Um, Yeah, so there's like one of them, but I think there's so many norms that I think we have to look at. And I really was going to answer the bias one. That's the one that was in my head. But
yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Well, hold on for a second, because let's do. Let me introduce the other two people, and then I'm coming back to you specifically. All right. So, Phil, hey, stranger.
Santana.
How's one of my favorite people in the whole wide world?
I'm doing okay. We're doing all right over here. Getting a little
Good,
bit better than we were before, so that's something.
good. Hey, Phil, happy Pride Month.
Pride.
Can I do jazz hands? Is
Seems
that a
like a
bad
Pride
thing?
Month requirement.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that was a thing. Like, would I be in trouble if I did jazz? Because to be fair, I was a theater kid and I've done jazz hands
A
before.
respectful
So
jazz hand is always welcome.
yeah, okay,
Respectfully.
cool. Phil, how well do you know yourself?
I am still getting to know myself because I just started accepting myself.
Okay, okay, okay. Hey, Phil, how do we break the chains of generational curses?
Healing ourselves,
Mm,
specifically healing ourselves. And I feel like if everybody worked on that first, it would be a lot easier for us to help each other heal.
mm. Do you think we have an obligation to help others heal?
It's not an obligation by any means. I do think that it is um, a benefit of healing.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like as we heal and we see others that haven't, we have that ability to help, but it's never an obligation. The only obligation we have is to ourselves, our inner child, our own trauma.
Okay, okay. Got it. And last but not least, is it Jam or Jamie? Jamie. I see it.
Jamie. Yep.
Jamie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Jamie, how well do you know yourself?
I would like to say for the most part pretty well, but you can't really be honest unless you say that you're still learning about yourself every day.
Okay. Jamie, tell me, for you, what does accountability versus cancellation look like?
That's difficult because I feel like with accountability, you really have to be honest about yourself and whether or not you're going to take the chance to learn, and move forward. With cancellation, you're just you're not willing to learn. You're not willing to learn about it.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, so this is what we're gonna do. Let's jump back down to Joe, because Joe had some knowledge he was getting ready to drop on us. Joe, you were gonna talk about biases, or tell me where were you going?
yes, I just want to kind of like talk about a bias that I had. So I come from a single mother. I'm a poor white dude. Single mother, 8 kids. So I found that it was really hard to see what white privilege was until I got educated. It
Mm,
took me a while to get there because I was like, well, man, there ain't no difference between me and maybe like other friends of mine, right? And I'm like, I didn't really see a difference until I started exploring and getting educated. And I think one of the biggest problems is that we're not teaching. People are not teaching about disparities in high school. You have to take a, believe it or not, intersectionality you talked about. You don't learn about that unless you have a master's class.
Mm.
Especially as like unless you go like do research on your own. And if we're being honest, as a white man, you're not going to, things that don't affect you, we don't really research them until someone maybe we meet, or you have friends who are expressing those things to you. Then you start figuring out like, oh man, hey, the world is different. And so like I didn't realize that because I'm like, man, I'm a poor white dude. For the longest time, I didn't realize that I had white privilege until people were bringing it up where it was at. Like I had to really understand like, white privilege is something that you don't have to think about, right? Or privilege in general is something that you don't have to think about. And then I started looking at myself as I was getting educated and realizing there's a lot of things I don't have to think about. There's a lot of conversations I don't have to have. When I started looking at like some of these disparities, I realized like, especially throughout my master's program, there's like thousands of them. I can literally just list them on top of my head now of all the studies of, different ethnicities and some of the things that they've went through, right? One of the biases I had actually, so my sister is married to a black dude. And so I remember being like 13 years old, and I'm like, man, that's a good black man. That's what I said. And I was like, I didn't even realize at the time how wrong that was. So then it was kind of like, what do I think? Where? And it was in my subconscious. Like I always thought like I'm a good person. I've never treated anybody bad. But those subconscious biases are still there, and we really got to break ourselves down and figure out like where did we learn them? Where did they come from? Right? And even though I had friends, right? Even though I had friends who were, black, it didn't negate, like, I realized that they were going through things. Like, even though we both were poor, there was a whole other side of things that they were going through that I didn't have to deal with. And I just never noticed it. And it took
Joe,
me, I didn't notice it until I started hanging out with certain people, right? Until I started doing the research.
Joe, not you coming up here with some sense of self-awareness, and speaking to the difference between uh, racism and classism. Mm, gotta love it. Gotta love it. Joe, yeah, no, listen, and I love how you called out the proximity to blackness does not equate, right? And even more, yeah, you nailed it like with the intersectionality. I actually really like the thought process. The biasy that I like to speak to, or just, my inherent misogyny, and the fact that I always took for granted like the privilege that I have for being a man, right? The simple fact that there's a lot of things that women have to deal with that I never thought about, and I only, was in a position where I had a conversation with like my wife at the time, my girlfriend, and she was talking about certain things, and I was like, wow, like I never think about those things. Like I never think about, my safety with just walking down the street. And then I, had a conversation with like, my sisters and other women, and I learned about how they would have their keys between their fingers and like all this other stuff that I had never thought about, never dealt with. And it really spoke to the privilege that I, walk around with every day as a man. So
I
yeah.
was gonna, I wanted to give you just one quick example of privilege. Me and my wife were hanging out with another couple. They're a couple of color, and so we go out to this. We're out in Las Vegas, and we were going to eat at one of the buffets.
Mhm.
And so we go out, and then this woman goes and just cuts her off. And so her thought was like, and then she's like, "I was here first," and just like cut in front of her. And so her thought process was one of two things, like this girl is either racist or she's bleak, whatever,
Mhm. Mhm.
an ish, right? So she's either one or the other. And so I was thinking, like, if I was there, I would just thought, oh, this girl. I wouldn't have thought like she was discriminating against me, right? I would just thought like there's something wrong with this girl, right?
Mm.
Because and like that's a privilege. Like you don't realize how simple like privilege can be, or it's like helping someone, right? People give me the benefit of the doubt. I notice that all the time. I don't have a record. I have no tattoos. I get the benefit of the doubt a lot. So I feel like I need to use that to advocate as much as I can for all people, right? And so that's one thing that I'm trying to do is just advocate. And I actually live in an area in the Central Valley of California where it's just so conservative. And but I am making people think. I ain't necessarily changing their minds, but I do feel like I'm making them think because I'm bringing up a lot of these statistics, and I'm like, one thing I always ask people is when you say the first, right? So we were talking about DEI, and I was like, well, okay, well, why is there still a first? You think for 400 years there was no people of color or Latinos or blacks? How can we still have the first CEO? We have the first black woman president, and they couldn't. That's one thing that no one can really answer. But I actually got to go to bed. But I just wanted to say that I do think we got to start educating this stuff in elementary, and I feel like they're trying to go backwards. Like this current regime, but we have to educate people at an earlier age. I should not have to learn that. I should not have to learn what intersectionality is in a master's program.
Well, I'll say this. Like, to be fair, I think it's something that it's one of those things that a lot of people may understand, but not necessarily know what it is. But it's just like anything that the more you learn, the more you can identify those things, and the more you can make those connections. And so I definitely agree. Like, I think that's something that we need to be taught at a earlier age. I think it's funny as well, though, that some people might be able to identify it, but not necessarily know what it is.
Yeah, our differences definitely are not the problem. I think it's accepting those differences. That's where the problem comes, is that people can't accept someone who's different from them in this day and age. And we need to get people who are willing to accept people's differences and embrace them. It's funny how we can embrace certain things for certain reasons, but we can't embrace it all the way, right? It's like, you can enjoy certain music or enjoy certain people's food, then why can't we build equity for all then? Why can't we treat people with a certain level of respect? And I still got a ways to go. There's still things I'm learning about myself, and I'm still trying to learn my biases. And I think it's like something you have to learn every single day, right? It's something that we have to keep learning. And I'm not, I'm never gonna be done. And I'm never gonna know what it's like, right, to be in certain people's shoes. But it doesn't mean I can't learn. I can't read. I can't research that information myself, and then advocate to other people who I think their head might be screwed on a little, the wrong way. I think our job is kind of help them.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think there's a lot to that. But anyway, Joe, thank you for coming up. I really appreciate that. That was absolutely amazing. You're awesome. Joe, you still there? Oh, did we lose Joe? Oh, I think we lost Joe. Guys, don't worry about Trinity. Trinity and I play a fun game, right? It's called Trinity Comes Into My Live and I mute her, and so she has to watch from outside of the club. Yeah. No, we don't block Trinity. We only mute Trinity. We don't block her.
She's got like 72 accounts. You can block her. She'll just be on the other one.
I know, that's the fun part.
She just keeps
she just comes back. Parker was talking about how he's blocked her over 100 times.
I think
we
she
just
found
mute her.
Us all through him.
Yeah, it's Parker's fault. We're blaming Parker.
I'm blaming him. Yeah.
Clip this. We blame Parker.
I blame. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So I just mute her. Okay. Real quick, because I have a question, but then we'll come back to it. But Phil, you said that you had something you wanted to speak to specifically.
I actually came up here because it's a little bit of a two-parter. But the first question I have is how many of those biases that people express, especially female or femme presenting individuals, are based off trauma?
Okay.
For example, the big thing I wanted to come up here to talk about was religion. And I know that got mentioned, but I grew up IFB, and because
what is IFB?
Which one's that?
The Independent Fundamentalist Baptists.
Okay, I haven't even. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's a cult. It was like
it's a good one.
Yeah, when I was a child, if I wanted to wear a swimsuit, I had to wear bloomers.
Okay.
That kind of cult, and because of that, I personally, anytime somebody approaches me and says, "Oh, I'm a Christian," I stop and I'm like, "Oh, are you a Christian or are you a Christian?" And it's a bias that I have to the point where my brother and sister-in-law, who are some of the best people I've ever met in my life, I will reference them and say, these two people are amazing Christians. It shouldn't be amazing Christians. It should be amazing people. But that bias is based out of trauma.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why I was saying earlier, like, we don't even have we don't even have the fact that religion is such a huge thing, and it affects so many different people ways. And I think I know it's how religion has been weaponized throughout the history of the world for different forms of oppression, and it's something that is continued to be used. Hawk, would you like to jump in on that? Because I would love to hear your perspective as far as how religion has been weaponized and how that can cause certain aspects of trauma.
Well, to the extent that it's been weaponized, I would argue or postulate even that it's because
I
it's been
don't know
linked
what
to.
that word means.
Sure, you do. Look it up. Because it's been linked to the patriarchy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's that Christian patriarchal dogma that has set what we consider the societal norms.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with you, Hawk. And it's interesting because of the connection between all of your questions right there in regards to what is your bias, what are the societal norms, and how do you break the chain?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's so much to that, and I think that could be a whole thing on its own where we have to actually deal with that because I think a lot of there's a lot of actual connection that branches off into all of those things, and it could actually be a standalone topic of its own. So, ooh, that's something I'm gonna have to come back to. Welcome in, Erica Raid. Welcome in, Erica Raid. Guys, as you get in, tap the screen, share the live. Let's go ahead and the likes have been moving slow tonight. We got to address this. Let's get the likes up to 100,000 likes. Let's get the shares up to at least 100 shares. Holy smokes. Also, guys, we do have $215 left in our nightly donation goal. So there's, almost 400 of us hanging out here. 215 people send $1. We can close out the nightly donation goal. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all the pay links are in the link tree in the bio. Santana Speaks 24. Santana Speaks 24 is the best way to support the live. If you enjoy the information, education, entertainment, please consider donating. Everything is accepted. Anything is appreciated. And last but not least, W's in the chat for Grandmaster RNG, who sent 100 bits over on Twitch to see the difference in how men and women communicate is a social experiment. They just need to find a random man and woman and ask them directions to the same place and make notes on the difference in direction. Yep. That's a whole thing. My wife and I were having a conversation, and she has a running joke where she's like, yeah, if someone gives her directions and like you want to go northwest and then head about 2 miles and then you're gonna go south and da 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 da. And she's like, what am I, a sailor? And I'm just like, yep, got it. I don't know. Anywho, Jamie, what would you like to add to the conversation?
Well, and I was going to add to Fal's point. So I guess my trauma with that doesn't, or my point to that doesn't come out of trauma, but it definitely comes out of judgment. So I've never been any part of a religion, but, when people speak to me, it's all about, as a woman, when are you starting a family? When are you going to get married? And in corporate America, it's all that people can relate to me on. Some of us, that's not our path, but it seems to always be stemmed on the family aspect of it. And that's really hard because not all of us have an identity, or not everyone thinks that we have an identity outside of a man or a family. So it's been very complicated to get outside of that preference that people have for us as women, that we may not be a wife, we may not be a mother, we are people outside of that. And that comes out of religion a lot of times. Like, I think I've messaged you this. I live next to Charlie Kirk, which is quite unfortunate.
Oh, that's very unfortunate.
Yes, very, very unfortunate.
Does it cause a smell in your area? I feel like it would cause a smell like in the area.
Oh yeah, we can smell his gums from here.
Yeah, I would think so.
But and then there's like another person from Turning Point who also lives in my building. But you know, there's just that like complicated area of constant like bashing of women who don't have a family, who don't have a husband, and that we are just trying to make it on our own in the world without the aspect of being somebody inside of a family.
Yeah. So I think that's there's a lot to be said to that, and it's interesting because I know the conversation was kind of shifting earlier to where they were saying that that's not how you do a raid, Erica. You don't say me raid, amateur. Anyway, there was a lot of conversation about how there was an idea that there was a shift, and somehow we were kind of like moving away from that type of thought process of like, oh, we have to adhere to these actual norms, but then you have people actively out trying to indoctrinate the youth, and I think it's working, right? Like,
Oh,
what do you
I
think about that?
100% agree with you because so the industry that I work in insurance and the employee health and benefit side, and we are seeing like such a shift in men blaming women for their mental health issues, especially in that younger population. So, you know, when you were talking about that incel population, that's exactly what I was typing when you said that. We are seeing those men, you know, they have to have something to blame, that younger male population, not all men, but it is a reliant fact that we are seeing like a heavy shift in that mental health usage of men, and they are significantly blaming women for their problems.
Yeah, I think so, and it's interesting that it's moving in that direction, and there's it's funny. So I was yesterday I was on with Dean and Parker, and we just kind of it was towards the end of the live, and we were talking about this specifically, and I was saying how I feel like there's a shift where there's a push to tell young men that, hey, you guys are victims. There's no actual accountability that's needed. You guys don't need to, you know, adhere to any type of levels of morals or things, and it's becoming really prevalent. And to have the thought process of like I don't have to have any type of accountability as a young man. I don't have to be accountable for the words that I say or blah blah blah. Like, I think that's something that may be appealing to a lot of young men, but it's something that absolutely is unacceptable.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
So something that I've noticed a lot, and it's something that really bothers me. It's the fact that the ideology of I was the victim of something and the ideology of accountability do not have to be in two separate realms. They can coexist. They can be part of it. You can take accountability for how you respond to your trauma. Just because something happened to you doesn't give you the right to continue the cycle.
Ooh.
It
Now
brings up that great
that's an
perspective
interesting one.
that men are also victims of the patriarchy as well. But they, you know,
And it's definitely something that's not
What do you mean by
expressed
that?
enough.
What do I mean? Well, like, yeah, even like we were talking about earlier, you know, like men have to be manly, men have to be this, don't cry, you know, hold in your feelings, don't ask too many basic questions about things because you might seem stupid or something. Like, yeah, that's harmful to men too. And again, women aren't the ones who are saying that. Well, you know.
That is a great, yep. Someone already put in the chat, toxic masculinity. That's absolutely it. Okay, hold on, guys. 1 second. We got Kay. Hey, Kay.
Hello.
Hi, guys. So Kay is gonna actually talk to you for a few moments while I take a quick break. And Kay, you got the floor.
Okay. Well, let's just start off. If everyone could keep tapping and moving those likes, that would be amazing. Share the live. All those good things. Gift your favorite panelists here. They've been giving some great information. And then also Oh, I was going to introduce the panelist who just left, but I guess he decided he only wanted to debate Santana since that's all he was chirping in the comments last night about. So he'll maybe come back when Santana comes back. But does anyone else have anything that like to open it up just a little bit to like more of a conversational about any of things on the background? Do you all need Santana to pick you out individually?
Don't everybody
We
speak.
need that male leader to take charge here.
That's hysterical. But so I wanted to say I was giving some hints in the chat because I also know what the overarching topic is. And so I think that that's fine. Like, Pokey, that's fine. Like, go grab your girlfriend. No worries. But I think like we got really kind of centered on like the women and men, and so my first hint to everyone that was on that's on the panel now or that was on the panel is that nowhere in the background does it say men or women, and we got real centered on that real quick, and then we talked to Joe who brought up some more good points, and I said Joe's getting warmer, so those are just two clues, and throughout the week and all of that I'm sure we'll get more clues to it, but it's definitely a little bit bigger. And so is there anyone who wants to take a new guess?
Self-accountability.
It's definitely in that realm, and it is about a little bit more self-reflection. I mean, like the topic, you know, right now is like know thyself for this week, and so I would probably say that more so it's also kind of about looking outside of yourself.
You have to understand the difference.
Okay,
I
listen,
thought
you're not
whenever
going to
Joe
be on
was
screen.
speaking,
You can't just like speak like that, like a haunted little. Cannot do that.
so my thought when Joe was speaking specifically was that I thought it was a really good topic to discuss the like cultural influences that a lot of us don't think about. Very similarly to Joe, like I was raised in the South, and I am having to deconstruct all of what was taught to me in the South. And there are a lot of times and a lot of things that I don't think about that like even my wife will stop me and be like, "Hey, you're not in Texas anymore," and I have to like take that moment to deconstruct all of the training that I grew up in. And I thought that like when Joe brought that up, I thought it was a great topic. I don't know if it's an overarching topic, but I think it's the deconstruction of cultural expectation. I thought was a great thing to discuss.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's definitely something that will be a major topic that we're going to get into. But Kay, I don't want to take it. I know you were guiding this. I want to let you finish being the captain of the ship.
I am not the captain. I believe that was Erica's line. I think like for me, I'd like to go back down and kind of just like participate a little bit and actually like go through the background. So I'm pretty aware of, you know, where my biases lie. I've been deconstructing for over 2 decades. It's also my field of expertise and what I do with a lot of clients. The societal role and norms, I think we fall into that a lot when we start talking about any of these topics, because the societal roles and norms for each individual, there are some that, of course, like will hit men and women or non-binary folks, but then there are also, you know, there are some that are just individual to yourself, depending on, of course, like you had just said, where you grow up, you know, how you're raised, those kind of things. I think the way that we do break all the chains is we never stop learning. We seek out education. We don't have to go to school for it. There are excellent resources, whether that's books or, you know, published articles, but also talking to people, and not just here on TikTok. And I love TikTok as a platform to be able to have conversations, but I 100% love talking to people in person. And really, like,
You mean out in the real world?
yes, the real world.
This smells funny out there.
Well, you just
Familiar. What platform is that on?
You are so funny. And then I think that accountability is knowing that after over 2 decades of deconstruction and intersectionality work, I'm going to mess up. It is a foregone conclusion as a white woman, that I'm going to mess up again. And a lot of times, there are people who say, well, like, how after 2 decades could you make a mistake? It's super easy. And there are things with your inherent bias that honestly just keep coming up. So, and cancellation, I think, is I have kind of a different take than a lot of people. I do feel very strongly that people who cannot or are willful in not actually participating in learning and learning outside of themselves should be ostracized from society until they do so. There's
okay, you're saying that you participate in cancel culture.
I absolutely do.
Wow.
But listen to how that was said, though. Listen to how that was said, because if enough of us do it and they truly are ostracized, they're not going to want to be out there on their own for very long.
Nope.
And then they will force themselves to have to figure out what they should have figured out on their own before.
I think we talk about cancel culture in a way where someone does one thing and then nope, there's no coming back from it. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who say things like, well, I vote Democrat or I vote this way, and I don't need to learn about intersectionality. I don't need to learn how to be a good person by reading books. I don't need to know the real history of this country. I don't need to know global anything. What? Why do you keep saying my name?
Hold on. My soundboard isn't working. I was trying to hit.
That's what you get.
That's Jeeba saying I didn't need to do that. I was about to be petty. I was about to be petty. Hold on.
That's fine.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with my soundboard. Go ahead, Kay.
Why don't you work on that for a little bit?
Go ahead.
So I feel like that when you say those things and then you proclaim yourself to be like, you know, wanting progression. Wow. That was can you mute?
I didn't like that.
Not the taboo buzzer.
Right? Like, time's up. You're about to end this live with flashing.
Can we get this guy out of here?
Anyway, go ahead.
Wow.
Go ahead.
Stop it.
All that.
Oh, keep going. You got to keep talking.
Okay, I'm super unalived right now. And I hate having to say unalived. That's just ridiculous. So if people are going to say that and they're going to say, well, I want progression, but then they're like, but I am not doing the bare minimum. And I'm really talking only to my people. Like, let's be very frank.
With hard hands.
So if there's some stoppage in your desire to learn more, to be better, to grow, then I and we in society don't need you until you're prepared to do bare minimum work to be an actual decent human being. So That's my, long-winded take. Sorry.
Santana,
I
I'm
agree,
gonna
Nunu.
go take my meds. But before I do, I just wanted to add one little thing, and then I'm bouncing out
Yeah,
of here.
yeah, go ahead.
In regards to accountability, I just want to show my favorite example of it for a second,
Mhm.
and that's you. You are my favorite example when it comes to accountability
I don't
for
understand
a
all
very
that.
simple and very easy reason. How many times have you misgendered me?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And how many times have you apologized? Exactly. It's the fact that from the very, very beginning, you have always jumped on it, and the second you did it, oh, I'm so sorry. The moment anyone's pointed it out, you apologize again. And I just want to say that that is an amazing example of accountability, and the kind of example of accountability that the world needs more of.
Well, let me give you a counter argument before you
1
go.
second. Nope, no counter argument from you. Hush up. Also, I just want to say, in regards to that, is Fel, first of all, how much I love you, but second of all, I'm so excited. But the one thing that I'm going to piggyback off of is that Santana is kind of a good beacon of accountability, and that's because time and time again he will move outside of himself to find the right answer. And you can shake your head and make all those faces because you don't like any type of compliment.
No, you know what it is, but no, Kay, that's not what it is. What it is simply
I was a bitch.
Talking
I'm
over
gonna be honest with you. I was a fucking bitch. I was a
got
bitch.
it. Yeah,
I was a
that sounds
bitch.
about right.
I was
Yeah,
a bitch.
all right.
I was fucking scared.
and I had to learn to be better because I realized that I can't continue to be that type of person, and so I needed to be better. And so once I started to realize that like I had those things, I just tried to, find new ways to move forward. What were you saying, Kay?
Oh, nothing. You just talked over me. You wanna dive into that and deconstruct some of that?
Yeah, it's
Let's
my
unpack
misogyny.
that.
It's my
That misogyny
misogyny.
is like out in a second. I'm just messing. I'm just messing. But Fel, I really just wanted to piggyback off of that because one of those things that I love so much is that, he does really like go beyond to try to learn, and I think you're really right about that. And I think that's
Let me
good
say
to
this
hear.
seriously though, because this is something that, and I'll get kind of personal for a second. It's something that I'm working on in therapy. And it's something that I've struggled with a long time. And Jeebus be with my wife. She's tried to get me there, and I'm like still not great at it, but making the shift from saying that, oh, I'm sorry, and having that accountability to actual change behavior. Because like if you want to give somebody a real apology, then you change the behavior. And like that's the part that I'm still struggling with, and what I would like to get to, Phil, where I appreciate you so much for realizing that it's not something I'm meaning to do, and I apologize. But like, and for myself and for others, like how do we make it to that point where it's no longer you're just apologizing, but you have that actual change behavior that you continue to lean on, and you don't have to even go back to that point of apologizing.
Tana, I want to point out though, like, and I understand that you're saying that you're working on it, and I'm super proud of you for working on it. And so I'm just, again, I have to take my meds, so I'm
Yeah,
just
I'm
gonna
sorry.
keep
Go
it
ahead.
quick and
Go ahead.
focused. No, no, you're
Yeah.
fine. You are making those steps. And the reason I pointed out and point you out and really want to say what a good job you've done at being accountable is because I remember when I was having the financial issues and you guys were bringing me up on the panel, and I was so nervous and anxious and scared, and somebody else on the panel misgendered me. And you, without thinking, because you were gazing off at something, you were looking at something off screen, and without thinking, it was they.
Mm.
And they did it again, and they. You do that.
Kay taught me
You
that.
started, yeah, and I
Kay
mean, you
helped me with that.
started off with misgendering me and apologizing, but now it's not just that you don't misgender me. And I mean, sure, everyone makes mistakes, and I'm never going to hold that against anybody, but it's the fact that without thinking, you correct people for me because of how much anxiety it causes me.
Yeah.
and because of the problems I have. And that is accountability. And that is the kind of accountability other people also need to learn, myself included. So thank you. Thank you guys for having me up on the panel. I love coming up and chatting. I need
love
to
you
take
so
my meds
much.
and they're going to knock
Get
me
your
out.
meds.
So,
Get your meds.
all
Get to
right.
bed.
I love you guys.
Love you. Bye. Yeah. Would anybody else like to? I would legitimately, if anybody could actually answer that question for me, because my therapist apparently is heading to Costa Rica this week, and I'm not going to be able to see her. So, any like opportunity I could get some free therapy, how do I fix it and go from, apologies to actual change behaviors? Hawk?
The only thing I can think of is you have to remind yourself that it's really not an apology if you do not change the behavior. You're just talking, right? I used to tell students all the time, stop saying you're sorry because you keep doing the same thing over and over again. So obviously you're not sorry. So just remind yourself, if you say that, then truly be sorry and correct the behavior.
So is that the development of accountability?
That's definitely part of it. Absolutely.
Okay. Andrea, I would like free therapy, please.
I worked in the marketing department for a therapy office, so I'm pretty much licensed at this point.
Boom, drop it on me.
But I would say there's also I feel like there's a big difference between messing it up intentionally and accidentally as well, right? Because I don't know how to phrase this exactly. I had the words a second ago, but you're talking about it you messing it up isn't changed behavior, and you're taking a lot of guilt with that. But there's also an element you had to play in there where you're not doing it intentionally. You are genuinely very apologetic, and it's very much so an accident. So that should be weighed in as well. And they even said well, you don't almost, now you don't do it anymore, or maybe you almost never do it, which is still a vast improvement, I would assume. I haven't been around, but and so
you don't come hang out with me. Anyway, go ahead.
You're a little bit weird. I
The
don't know.
shade.
Well, yeah, so there is change there, but everyone messes up, and everyone is human, and no one is perfect. And I think sometimes you gotta cut yourself a little bit of slack there, even though you don't want to. And we all feel bad about things, but I think you shouldn't say oh, you're terrible at accountability just because you mess up here and there still sometimes.
Yeah, the problem that I worry about, and not just in myself, but in as a whole, right? Thinking
That's
about
a really good comment too. I've started doing that too. Someone said it helps if you just start referring to everyone with neutral pronouns. I've started doing
that's
that as
how
much
Kay
as I
taught
can
me.
too as well.
Kay literally taught me that. But listen, because I'm really I know we're speaking specific, but I want to I'm really trying to take this big picture, because it's more than just talking about someone's pronouns or talking about these specific things. It's really something that I'm thinking of big picture, in a sense of giving someone a certain level of grace, but also saying I think an important piece to accountability is being able to say I can identify when I'm not doing the things, and then there has to be some type of line of demarcation, because again, it's going to blow out to a bigger conversation that we're going to end up having. But if people if they don't know how to get to that accountability point, and if we're giving them too much grace, then will they ever be able to have real change behaviors? And when you start talking about change behaviors, and we start talking about the real bigger issues like systemic racism and things like that, how do they actually make that change if they can't take that accountability because we're giving them too much grace?
I think almost similar rules would apply. I mean, obviously, if someone isn't trying to take accountability at all, then cancel them out. Cancel culture all the way, I suppose. But there is that acknowledgement that we are all human, and we're all gonna mess up here and there. And I think a large part of it should also be intention. But also, in other areas that doesn't apply as much. But yeah, I mean, we're all human. We're all going to mess up. we need to, you know, be more understanding and, you know, and speaking with sincerity and things like that. And, but like, yeah, obviously if someone continues to F up over and over, then maybe let's have a conversation about that then. But
Yeah, just don't tell my wife that because she
Can I
will.
circle this back to how I understood your original questions when we
Sure,
first
go ahead.
started?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Because
So
you know
the
how
accountability,
my thoughts are, Hawk.
the accountability part is just that. It's a part. I think the overarching picture is that self-awareness, right?
Mm,
If you're truly trying to be self-aware when you're analyzing the things that you have or have not done or whatever, then you're taking accountability for those things that you have or have not done, and then you try to make the progress from that. So I think it starts with the self-awareness, right? Not just arbitrarily, I'm going to be accountable for this or that or whatever, because in a lot of ways you're just saying that, but you're not doing anything.
mm.
If you're working on yourself, trying to be truly self-aware, then the accountability, I think, may mean more.
Yeah.
I like that comment
Oh,
someone left because it kind of ties also back into what I was saying. Empathy has a part in it too. And it's like, yes, that about intention, right? Did you genuinely mean that? Or do you feel bad? You messed up, etc.
hold on. Kay, how do we get the people to the point where they actually want to do that?
To take accountability or
Yeah.
to start the process?
To take accountability in earnest versus it, you know, being something that's forced upon them.
So for me, and you, like you know, all of
Mm-hmm.
my clients are either extremely low pay or no pay.
Mm-hmm.
So this one will be free for you.
Good, because I ain't got no monies.
I genuinely feel that when we talk about accountability or the process of starting to learn where your biases are or how to deconstruct from norms and roles and all of those things, there has to be some type of buy-in. And the buy-in doesn't have to be much. It has to be very little. And we touched on this earlier, but when I want to, you know, when me and my colleague are working with people who, you know, maybe have been sent to us from their workplace because they had repeatedly, you know, behaved in microaggressions or something like that. We never start right off with that lesson. We start off with something that is a little bit more understandable to people. And one of those things would be ableism. Because a great deal of people who are able-bodied can easily figure out that you could be inherently ableist if you are able-bodied. So, and that seems to click for them almost instantly, like, oh, whoa, I don't have to live my life, you know, with a disability. And so I could see how I could be inherently ableist, even unintentionally. And it's almost, it is something that works much more quick or quicker than if someone was to be like, you're inherently racist as a white person, or you're inherently, you know, anti-black if you are a black person, or you are inherently, you know, something when it comes to bigger topics. Because as people don't want to be uncomfortable, and whiteness plays a huge role in like an actual horrific part of our country, like having to acknowledge something that is able to be done by everybody is really starting with the things that make you slightly uncomfortable and then being able to sit in it and really just reflect on it. Take some time. Instead of being reactionary, write down whatever you're feeling in that moment. Maybe, like, especially when we're on panels like this and someone wants to just jump right back on somebody, like, take a minute, mute yourself, write down a few words about how that made you feel or how it was, and then, like, come to it in a conversation, which is why I personally have always stamped Late Nights with Santana as the upper echelon of lives, because it's always a conversation. And I know you like to get your sparring in.
You know I like to get active.
I know last night was a little too active
That was
for
a
me.
mess.
But late nights is different and has always been. And so those conversations and like the little things that like we've talked about, like about using gender neutral pronouns just in everyday speech. And then when you know, then you know. And it just helps you navigate a little bit more. And that's one thing. But like there are certain topics that people are super reactionary to when they don't need to be. Like it's easy to be able to say like I'm a white person and I am inherently racist. And then I can also like know that no matter how much deconstruction, no matter how much decolonization happens, no matter how much I keep learning, there's always going to be that time where I'm going to need to take accountability.
Can I ask a
know that I'll
question?
be uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
go ahead, Jamie. And I also want to get to the two people. Listen, I know I wasn't supposed to add anybody in because we only got 9 minutes left until it's t-shirt time. So I definitely want to get to these two as well. But go ahead with your question.
When you're saying like a buy-in, you're meaning that it has to be like fruitful for somebody, like that they have to get something out of it.
Not exactly. So when I say buy-in, that usually is what people think is that they're going to get something out of it. But at the beginning, the buy-in is knowledge. The
Okay.
buy-in is just it's knowledge, it's growth. It's and at the end, and because it never ends, it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. And so it's one of those things where knowledge is so much more power. So
I'm really glad that you asked that question because that's not even what I was thinking. I was thinking when you said buy-in, like to get, I was thinking some level of like acceptance, like, okay, I can at least see that perspective.
yes, and that's part of it. That is definitely
Okay,
part of it,
okay.
is getting them to see. Oh, well, that's an easy one to kind of wrap my head around, and then we can try like a new one, like why we just don't randomly walk up to people and like touch their hair like out of nowhere,
Yeah, and
Just
just
saying.
quickly before you like introduce the new people and then I'll hush up. But like for me, like I guess my buy-in was like really facing my white privilege during like the George Floyd unaliving and the riots. I've been in contact with many police officers. I've never had to worry about anything remotely close to that. I've used many a $20, $100 bills at Circle K's, Quick Trips, whatever. I've never had to worry about them ever checking it to be counterfeit. So that was something I guess my buy-in was, and I was well above the age that I should have been looking into those sort of things. So, that was something that I really had to come face to face with at that age. And it was, like I said, well above the age that I should have been looking into that.
And that happens. I mean, sometimes we are not, we're not 5 when, some of these concepts are brought to us. But I also I would correct just like a gentle, like kind of call in would be
Yes, protests.
as
I
Mark said,
apologize.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Like just kind of making like language is so important, and like that's just another little thing, like that we can talk to each other and not be offended. Like
That's what I was just
you know
about
what
to
I mean?
say.
Yeah,
Like
like we could
that's
just say, hey,
accountability.
Yep,
and
100%.
and that's all it has to be. Like, oh,
Yeah.
yep, you're right, that's it, and then we just move about, like,
Yeah.
move forward.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Real quick. Spicy Phoenix, what would you like to add?
Hi. I was just going to add that when I started on my deconstruction journey from my trauma and from racism and all of these large concepts that we've been talking here, um, it was the guilt and the shame, especially the shame. And I think that that is a lot of the reasons why people have a hard time moving on from something or from being able to learn and grow from something, because it's the fact that we don't teach how to be wrong in most of our life. We aren't taught how to handle being wrong and taking accountability. And it took me being taught by somebody how to do it. And part of it is I'm also autistic, so sometimes I miss social cues and I miss, I read things wrong, et cetera, et cetera. Not an excuse. But taking that accountability that a lot of people don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't know how to do it, it's hard to come out and not and not change your position because you feel ashamed for not already knowing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
I,
And
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're good.
I was just gonna say that talking to people, like I got through to somebody one time just by saying, I get the shame you're feeling right now,
Mm-hmm.
that you're being called out on something that you're doing wrong that you need to change. I understand that shame, but until you look at that shame and instead of looking at it as I'm doing something wrong, which you are, but also look at it as a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times that if we address the person and say, hey, I get the shame and the guilt that you're feeling about being wrong, because I don't know if, when you're growing up and you're told you did something wrong, you got that guilt and that shame of doing it wrong. And if you're taught that you can't be wrong, that you're going to get in trouble for being wrong. And I'm not saying this is an excuse. Please do not say that, because the point is you still have to learn and go past that. But people don't know how to get past that shame and guilt unless somebody helps them through it. Um, and it's hard to get rid of that shame and guilt,
Yeah, I
but
think that.
it's necessary.
Yeah, I think, like Kay said, a lot of people don't have that ability to sit in that discomfort. And I think that we all have to sit in a certain sense of discomfort in one way, shape, or form or another in order to be better, right? I mean, there's no way that you can actually say that you want to change, grow, or be better, and you're not willing to deal with those uncomfortable, hard things. I mean, like that's just how it has to happen. And so, yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I don't think I don't think the society that we live in is conducive to saying not only I was wrong, but to actually have to face those types of things. I mean, hell, I know we're not talking politics, but I'm gonna bring it back to politics because that's what I talk about, and Kate can get mad at me if she wants. But we have a president who prides himself on not admitting that he's wrong or lying to make something fit his narrative instead of, like, trying to actually perpetuate anything better. So I think there's a huge disconnect when it comes to who we are as a society, and just being able to, like, just admit failure, admit that you were wrong, and then grow from it.
Can I say something to that?
I mean, you're the captain.
You're not in trouble. So, but you have to understand from his point of view, his buy-in is his base.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he doesn't have to change or grow or do,
That's
F all, because that's not who he's trying to talk to. Plus, I mean, when you're born into the circumstances that man was born into,
Mhm.
I mean, you've never ever had to face classism. You've never faced, anything, as just a white cis male. Like, I'm sorry, you didn't have anything, and you had a silver spoon in your mouth. So, like, there's that. So he's never going to take accountability. I mean, that's a lost cause.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean about putting people out of society that are like that.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that, especially if they're not they're not able to be rehabilitated. Um, being rehabilitated is another whole uh, topic. But
Mhm.
I was gonna say to you, you were asking about, sometimes the they them and whatever. My pronouns are they them, and what I started doing even before I came out as non-binary 2 years ago, um, because I had a lot of friends who were non-binary, I did do what Kay suggested and just use they for everyone.
Yeah.
Forget what you see in front of your face. because we all look at a person and we judge by how they look. Are they masculine, feminine, she, that, her, that, him? But instead of doing that, just taking the assumption away. And that's what it is. It's taking your assumptions of who that person is
Mm-hmm.
and and putting them away.
You know,
Because it's your assumption of who they are instead of letting them tell you who they are. And if you
I have
use a
never thought
gender
of it
neutral,
like that.
yeah, and if you look at a gender neutral pronoun for everyone, then they can tell you who they are, and then your perception can change and put that pronoun on that person.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
I
Okay.
love Spicy Phoenix. They're my new favorite person. See?
Oh,
Look,
hi,
mistake
Kay.
right there. You know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
sent you a follow.
oh, I
Kay did
Yes.
that on purpose.
already.
Kay doesn't make
I hit you,
mistakes.
bitch.
Whatever.
But no, and I mean, it also helps tear down those gender roles by just, like
Oh, that's a
it's so
great thought.
important.
I didn't think about
Yeah,
that.
because I mean, and I will say, like, historically, back in the 1800s, they did use they them for everyone. It
Mm.
was used more often than it is now. But if you think about it, okay, there is an unhoused person on the side of the street.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do to help them? Or what can you do to help this unhoused person? You.
Me specifically?
Yeah, just as a hypothetical, what would you do if you saw an unhoused person on the side of the road and they were asking for help or a food, or what would you do to help the unhoused person on the side of the road?
I would start with a conversation. I mean, like, I don't know how I can truly help that unhoused person if I don't, one, understand, the situation they're in, two, their
Hold on,
needs,
I'm
and
going to
then,
stop you right there. It was just an example. I would go to them and
oh,
talk to them
yeah.
right there.
Listen, I'm not the sharpest spoon in the drawer. You can't
No,
use like
no.
those type of examples because it will end up just
I,
like that.
I didn't tell you it was an example
Yeah.
either, and I did it on purpose so that you wouldn't see it as an example.
Right.
It was a conversation.
Hmm.
And just being able to say, hey, this is a conversation. And in conversation, we use they and them all the time. And, I see things differently from you. You see things differently from me. But as a community, we come together and we share those so we can all grow in exponential ways. And looking at things a little bit different from somebody else's point of view is something that I think more people need to do. And I think that's why we have such a divide and a huge lack of empathy, because we aren't a community anymore. We aren't what we as humans were supposed to be, and that was groups of people helping each other out.
I completely
Communities.
agree. Completely agree. Completely agree. Okay. That weird gecko guy, my friend. How are you?
Evening, my friend.
Well, I'll save the signal chat conversation for the signal chat. Anywho, what would you like to add to the conversation?
So, like, when I joined in, like, people were talking about like the resistance where people have guilt. Like, it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
something that I found gets through to people a lot is it's not your fault, but it's your problem.
Mm.
Like,
Explain that.
so, like, I have ingrained I have biases. We all have biases. And when you talk to someone like, hey man, you're displaying this biases. Well, that's just how I was raised. It's not my
Mm.
fault. Great, it's not your fault, but it's your problem. Like, I'm not blaming you for anything. I'm just telling you got to fix it, And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times I can get through to someone who's like, and like I forget the name of the panelist who said like people are resistant to being wrong or getting in trouble.
Oh
Like,
yeah, that was Spicy Phoenix.
yeah, like you're I didn't say it was your fault. I just said it's your problem. Like,
Mm.
regardless of whose fault it is, like, I have biases that were implanted by, like, my boomer parents. That's not my fault, but it is my problem.
Yeah.
I want to say that is an amazing, 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 and I want to steal that so bad.
Run with it, comrade.
All right, guys, it is officially past T-shirt time, but we will have these conversations for the next 2 nights, and even more so. Like this is legitimately the conversation I had around this today was like, how do we use this as a launching point to build on a bigger thing? And I'm just gonna, you know what, I'll give you guys a little bit, just a little bit, just an FYI. I mean, we're gonna jump into some systematic, or I'm sorry, yeah, some systematic racism. Not this week, but off of this, we're gonna jump into generational trauma, right? We're gonna jump into inherent racism. We're gonna jump into yeah, I'm gonna say the rest of them, but it's all gonna build, because I think it's gonna take a lot, but I think it's like our responsibility to address these issues and actually deal with these issues, and find a way to come together as a community and break down the walls, and help each other be able to build from that point. So make sure we are locked in for the next couple of days and the next couple of weeks as we start to run through all of this. So let's start to say goodbyes, and I'll start with that weird gecko guy, FIFO. Oh wait, hold on. No, LIFO. That's an economic term. Last one in, first one out. What are your final words?
I don't have final words, man. I said my piece.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, listen, thank you for coming up. You know, you're always welcome. I like legitimately, I would love for you to come back this week, because I feel like this is the topic that I really need you, because I know what you can add to it. So, you're available.
DM me. I'll try and make sure my work schedule at night allows for it.
I understand. I appreciate you, my brother.
All right. Have a good one, friend.
Have a good one. Spicy Phoenix, last words.
I just wanted to say thank you for having this platform, or being on this platform, and I am so very happy that I came across this live tonight. I really needed it, and it's something that I've been really working on, and learning more is always a good thing. And there's a couple of things that you're looking to speak on later in the week that I really want to learn more about. So I will definitely be coming back. And Kay, it was great meeting you as well, and everyone else. And it was just wonderful to be up here and be able to
Kay
add
leaves an
something.
impression. She does. I taught her
I've
everything
been
that she
told I
knew.
do too. So
I raised Kay up from a youngin and taught her everything that she knows.
Excuse me?
So
I'm so sorry. Who has the decade on who?
Men always taking
whoa.
accountability for our accomplishments. Am I right?
I mean, I have to uphold the patriarch. So there's that.
Someone's got to do it.
Someone.
not that we don't have like over half the country who would anyway.
But no, Spicy Phoenix, thank you so much for coming up. I really hope that you come back. It's going to be a lot, and I'm really excited about it.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great night.
You as well. Andrea.
Man, this is like that time in class when you had so much time to think about your answer while kids went around the circle.
Ain't no way.
Nothing.
Ain't no way.
I had something and then I forgot it, thinking about how you were taking credit for women's work, and that really just set me off, honestly. And I don't know if I can come back after that. Like, I might have to put out a video and
whoa.
I think, yeah, great topic. You did amazing work as always. Erica is right. It's Andra, but we'll get there someday.
Yeah, I know. I just like completely space.
Thank you for welcoming me back.
Somebody mute Erica. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, mods. Always trying to silence women. What am I? I'm telling you.
No, Erica's an op. Erica's an op. This is different. This isn't even about. This isn't about her gender or anything. She's just an op and a hater. So there's that.
Yeah, just practice on being a hater. Just keep it up. Stay hating. Party on.
Thank you for hanging out tonight. Seriously, I appreciate you coming up when I put out the back signal, and it was really good, and I really appreciate everything that you brought to the panel.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
Night.
And Hawk, final words. Hawk, are you there?
Talking and unmuted. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I want to try and take the linchpin, if you will, from the various conversations that we've had since we've been on here, whatever, which for me would be this societal structure that we've been forced to live in or whatever, that's conditioning us to think and believe things in certain ways or whatever. And I want people to think about that and try to come up with ways that we can break that system so that we no longer fall prey to being conditioned the way they want us to be conditioned.
Hawk, I don't know how busy you're gonna be this week, but I like legitimately need you because this is gonna sound like maybe I don't want to say stupid when I say it, but like I would love if we could actually come up with a way to do that. Like really come up with like some maybe like some tangible things that we can do. You know? And maybe like that's I don't know because it's such a big thing and such a big picture, but I would love if we could have like some practical things that people can take with them, like you know like a small thing that they can put out into the world and they can implement that small thing and maybe it has a ripple effect to start to build on a big thing. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And again, understanding what I'm asking for or saying when I say that it's not going to be easy.
No, it's not.
Right? This is a age-old thing or whatever, and we're talking about breaking it down piece by piece or whatever until it's gone, so that we can then start with our self-expression and our own compassion and empathy and live that way instead of under their auspices and whatnot. So yeah, it's not going to be easy at all. But yeah, I mean, and here's the thing: you might not be able to do everything, but you can do something.
Right. And
right. So
that's where I'm going with it, Hawk.
You do that. Yes.
Do something. Yeah. All right. Hawk, thank you so much for hanging out all night. I appreciate you.
No problem.
Have a good one. And last but definitely not least, Kay. Hey, Kay.
Hey, Santana.
How did I do?
I think you did a good job.
Yeah, that's not what. Okay. Anyway, Kay, what do you have for the people?
I think that what you are wanting to accomplish is very grand. But I think that Hawk said it, properly. Like, we just need incremental change that has the ripple effect. We cannot think that, like, in the next 3 days or the next month of topic talking that we're going to just change it all. And so it takes time, and I think sometimes there's a fault with trying to do too much at one time.
I'm bad with that.
I know you are about that, and sometimes it trips us up. So like I would say, when I tell you deconstructing for 20 years, I mean like 20 plus years. So it takes time, and we can't do it like just with the snap. And some people really do. They hear some buzzwords, and then you can see them in another live using them, but they haven't maybe read a book or done more work to really understand the concepts that they're talking about. So I think if we do the ripple effect, I think even tonight, just talking about how we can use gender neutral pronouns.
Yeah.
You want to talk to everybody, and then as soon as then you go that route, and that's just one little thing that then, is a ripple. So, and helps, with misgendering, also helps breaking down the gender norms. So, absolutely, like, just, it's like micro dosing, like,
Micro dosing of what?
good stuff, knowledge, growth.
Yep.
Being uncomfortable and being okay with it. Making a mistake and being okay with it.
Yeah.
And knowing that, like, tomorrow's going to be better.
Yeah.
And deconstruction all the way.
Yeah. Okay, I like legitimately, and you know, I know you and I have talked about this. Yeah, I, I'll give everyone a little bit of a peek, but not too much. A little bit of a peek behind the curtain, but like Kay and I talked through a lot of things, and she really helps like shape the way that I think because like I'll take stuff and just like dump it all on the table, and I give Kay the responsibility of like picking through everything that I dumped on the table and then making it make sense. Um, so you know what I want to do, and I really hope that we can figure out a way to at least build this big picture. Because to your point, we might not, you know, be the change, but we can be the change that we want to see. So
I agree with you. And, I think like, just for this, like, what the conversation that we had, even earlier about, like, you dumped 4 jigsaw puzzles on the
yeah,
table.
yeah, 4 whole puzzles.
Like 500 piece plus. Like, some of them were like 1,000 piece plus. And I was
Yeah.
like, sifting. And then I was like, but if we don't have like a foundation, we can't do anything. So, and I think that once we then talked about it and we were like, hey, but then this could lead to this and then into this. And then like, we were like, immediately everything kind of just clicked. And we were like,
I'm legitimately excited about this. You know how I get when I like,
I do.
and so I'm excited.
We'll go get some rest and take care of yourself.
I will. I will.
Wonderful night. It was so great meeting some new people tonight, and like I'm a Phoenix fan.
Yeah. Yeah, she was super dope. Super dope. Super dope. Thank
and
you,
we're
Kay.
gonna work on your name issue because we've got that is
I don't know
there's
what it
something
is.
that you can work on. I think it's a surrender prescription. I think it's sounding it out.
More
with
meds
over
is definitely what I
vowels,
need, Kay.
something. I don't know.
Yeah. I love you. Good night.
Love you. Good night.
All right, guys, listen. It was fun. It was fun. It was a really good night. It was a really good opening, and I'm hoping that like I said, we can really build on this. And this week, we're gonna focus on these things on the background. And if you did not get an opportunity to join in the conversation, please come back tomorrow. Come back Wednesday. You'll get an opportunity to get in on this, and we will build on these things because these things are massively important. But these things are gonna lead to bigger things. And guys, if we want to be able to address systematic racism, got to be able to take accountability. If we want to take down the patriarch, we got to know how to actually address the social roles and norms. If we want to be able to have acceptance of your fellow person, you got to know what your biases are. And if we ever want to heal and just be better, we got to know how to break the chains. So we might not be able to do it all in these next couple of nights or this next month or this next year or whatever the case may be, but damn it, we're going to work on it, and I hope you guys come back to work on it with me. We do it together. As long as you guys are here, I'll do it. If you don't show up, then I guess I'll do the work by myself. Anywho, it's time to go, guys. Thank you for all the likes, the taps, the shares, the gifts. Thank you for all the follow. Oh, really quick. I know there's 300 some people watching this. If you're looking at this live and you're like, oh, it's Santana, I love Santana, whatever. Listen, make sure you're following me. Make sure if it up here, if it says follow, you're not following because the main account is in purgatory. And you might not be following this alternate account. Make sure you're following this account. Hit that follow button because the main account is in the gulag. And I want you guys to be able to find me. So make sure you hit the follow button. Anyway, guys, thank you for all the likes, the taps, the shares, the gifts. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for an amazing night.